Hey everyone, now we're going into another case study, which is related to workplace employee gamification for a bank. So for this case study, this is actually created by a student of mine, Ricardo Lopez Costa, who is based in Brazil. Ricardo has a development and a gamification platform company. And as early as 2014, he came to my workshops in San Francisco, and he started to apply the principles of Octalysis gamification into his platform, Funnyfire. And so this is the goal, right? All of you are my students here. Hopefully in the future, you'll be able to bring tremendous value into your projects, and maybe it will be a case study for us too. And so for this one, they did most of the good work. We supported a bit, gave some advisory, but the credit goes to Ricardo. I don't claim a lot of credit for the actual design and implementation, but like I said, he's been a good student. And to be honest, this is one of the most impressive and exciting gamification case studies out there. And to cover some case study highlights, we want to show that they were actually hired by the second largest public bank in Brazil, Caixa Econômica Federal, in 2017 to 18 period. And Caixa wanted to supercharge 83,000 employees to be motivated and treat their work and their life at the office like a game, and that they wanted to do that for 4,500 locations. Remember, this is a bank and a lot of banking centers, etc. And so Octalysis gamification through Funnyfire increased their yearly profits by more than $800 million, which is a 46% lift within a year. Now, if you wanted to actually check the exchange rate of 2018, it's actually more than $1 billion, but we're taking today's number standard, so it's about $800 million. That's a 46% lift for a public bank in Brazil. The ones that have been around for a long time, usually it's not a growth startup, it's pretty saturated. And because of this, Caixa rose from number 2 as a public bank in Brazil to the number 1 biggest public bank in Brazil because of our Octalysis gamification design. How did this all happen? We're going to explain some of the details, the context, the background, and then go into the design. And like I said, hopefully one day, one of you or many of you will be able to go out and do your own case studies and literally increase $800 million or $1 billion US of value in your company and your projects. So again, like we said, Caixa Econômica Federal was the second largest public bank in Brazil, and they had a historical record for their yearly recurring income, which is 8.6 billion Brazilian real, okay? And that's, again, they're the highest recurring income, which is profits, right? Not revenue, but profits of 8.6 billion. And that's equivalent to about 1.73 billion US dollars for 2023 standards. And they wanted to use gamification to increase their recurring income to 9 billion Brazilian real. So that's a 5% increase, which also sounds very ambitious by itself, right? So that's when they brought in Funnyfire, again, my student Ricardo, and Ricardo's Funnyfire platform creates a gamification dashboard and adds a lot of these 8 core drives elements into the workplace. So they were brought in to see if they could do this, increase the recurring profits by 5%. And so, to be honest, when I look at the specs and the challenge, this does seem like a mission impossible, okay? First of all, again, Caixa needed to supercharge its 83,000 employees, not a pilot with 20 people or 100 or 200 people. When they launched, they wanted 83,000 employees already using the system throughout 4,500 locations, right? They didn't do a pilot in one location. They didn't do a test in a small group. It's 83,000 employees and 4,500 physical locations. I would say that the reason why this case study is so impressive is because the CEO immediately wanted to deploy it to the whole organization, whereas most projects like we saw uses a pilot group, and we get the numbers from the pilot group, which is why we can make our case studies, but then they'll try to deploy it internally. And a lot of times those numbers are confidential, they can't be published. And sometimes they'll face other bureaucracy when they go to different departments. But this one, immediately on the get-go, 83,000 people for 4,500 locations. We're talking about every type of employee, okay? Not just salespeople, not just tellers, but all sorts of employees, salespeople, HR, customer service, operations, all the people needed to be engaged with this gamification system. So there's actually a system that needs to break down all their activities into various APIs, which are technological little data packets, and get sent to the Funny Fire system, okay? What makes matters worse is there were over 70 plus internal systems, tools, software, databases for tracking these employees' activities. So things like Salesforce, like their internal HR software, the databases, all those things, and they're all their siloed systems, right? And they need to tie all those together into a unified Funny Fire gamification experience. Again, still very, very hard. What makes matters worse is that each department has its own budget for reward distribution, right? Because we wanted to create a company-wide reward system, but every department has, oh, this is my budget, this is your budget. Like, how do we actually share this cross pool or whatnot? And you can know that bureaucracy and budgeting is a very difficult thing to manage in a company when it's cross departments, cross sectors. And so again, the company wanted to increase their yearly profits despite all this challenge by 5%, reaching their 9 billion Brazilian real goal. And to top it off, Funny Fire only had 3 months to launch their gamified solutions, okay? So when you look at all of this, it seemed to be mission impossible. And because I gave the highlight spoiler, they were able to pull it off and even more. So how do they do that? Let's go dive into the actual design, okay? Because this whole masterclass is about being able to apply what they did, the practices into your design. And so the first thing they did is actually very clever. They called the project 9 billion Tamo Junto, I believe, which means that it's 9 billion plus we are together, okay? And what Ricardo was telling me is that a lot of times your gamification solution, your technology platform, or your consulting work created value and the company's profit did increase, but then the client will say, oh, it's probably due to other reasons, a lot of factors, right? The economy, blah, blah, blah. And it's unclear whether you reach the goal or not. And so they decided, let's just name this the 9 billion real project. And so if it hits 9 billion, if your company's recurring profits is 9 billion, then yeah, of course, it was the result of the 9 billion project. So it's very clear where that success comes from. Now, of course, it's a double-edged sword because that means there's also more accountability. If a company did not hit 9 billion Brazilian real, then it's obvious that this project failed, right? You can't say, oh, maybe it still was pretty good, blah, blah, blah. If you called 9 billion and it was 8.9, then it's a failure. And Funny Fire was willing to put themselves out there to add accountability so that when it does well, they can actually get the credit. And again, they had a lot of confidence in gamification design, the things we're teaching in this course. They were so confident that this was valuable that they wanted to push it out there as their name, okay? But then why the second part? We are together, or we are all together. This is because we wanted to bring it to be more intrinsic. Because a lot of employees, when they see, oh, this is the 9 billion profit project, it feels, oh, it's just those high levels. They want to make more money and they want to get us to work harder. The title needs to create more of an intrinsic social companionship feeling. So this basically says that, hey, we are all working in this together. This is a group project. Let's all achieve this goal together and enjoy the glory together. So first of all, there's Core Drive 1, Epic Media and Calling. Let's do this together as a team. There's development accomplishment because you're going to hit the goal, 9 billion, it feels great. Ownership, there's that sense of ownership, whereas I own the project now, there's this goal. There's social influence, where connect to our employees. There's scarcity, right? It's a goal we have to hit in a certain amount of time. And so there's a bit of black hat extrinsic stress. And there's Core Drive loss and avoidance. Whenever they hit bureaucracy, the database people that says, oh, you want this API from us, etc. Yeah, you got to be in line. We're going to take 3 weeks or 2 months to give this to you. They said, hey, this is a project that the CEO wants to see happen. And it's called the 9 billion project. Okay. So if it does not reach the goal, it will be very clear. And it will also be very clear that's on your shoulders. You're the one that slowed it down, that made it unable to fulfill the objectives. And so the people who are the gatekeepers, the people who add more bureaucracy, like, oh, okay, I don't want to be connected to this failure with my name and accountability. So they really worked fast and hard to provide Funny Fire everything needed. So this core drive loss and avoidance was actually also planted in this naming. So we're spending even a lot of time discussing the naming, right? We're going deep into some of the tactile details of what they did. Okay, and then we go into the core mechanics of the design. Hey, you gotta click the next video. Your EXP isn't gonna collect itself. Well, actually, it would collect itself, but you should keep learning. Go to the next video.